things. If you get further along with it, you get into non-duality. And non-duality is considered to be the truth, not two. And this non-dual truth is really at the heart of the matter, right? Because the suffering that human beings experience is founded on the idea that they're separate, right? It's founded on the idea. If that illusion of separation were to pop, if that bubble were to pop, you couldn't suffer. It would be impossible to suffer. And what we know to be part of this truth is that this is already the case. So you have to keep working at being separate. You have to keep working at creating the illusion. You have to keep working at believing the thought process as a source of reality, when the thought process is not a source of reality. And so if it was possible for me to snap my fingers, and when I snap my fingers, the illusion would disappear. You would stop experiencing the illusion of being separate, right? Then you would start to see what it would be like to experience the truth, right? But here's the thing. If I were to snap my fingers, and when I snap my fingers, the illusion would disappear, and you would stop experiencing being separate, and because that illusion disappeared, there would be no more suffering. The paradox about that is that if that were to occur, nothing would have changed. If that were to occur, nothing would have changed, because the idea of your being separate is something you're generating, right? And even if you kept generating, it wouldn't change the truth, right? Even if you keep generating, it's not going to change the truth. It'll just keep producing an illusion, but it's not going to do anything with the truth, because the truth never changes, never changes. So if you look at it, if you look at your experience right now, just play with this. If you look at your experience right now, you could say that your experience could be talked about as what's happening. Yes? Yeah, you could say, yeah, you could talk about your experience as what's happening, right? So what's happening is your experience. That's what's happening is your experience, okay? There's only one experience happening, yes? There's not two experiences. There's only one experience. And in that one experience is everything you think and everything you believe about the fact that you're separate, right? It's part of that experience, isn't it? It's part of that experience, right? So you could say that which produces the illusion of being separate, right, is just part of what's happening. It's not separate from it, right? So in this what's happening, there isn't two what's happening. There's only one what's happening. And in that what's happening that you're experiencing right now, right, is the thought that you're a physical body, is the thought that you're separate from other people, right? Is your conditioning playing, right? Your conditioning, that's your conditioning, right? You learn that, right? So your conditioning is part of what's happening. It's part of everything else, right? It's part of the experience of being in the room. It's part of the experience of breathing. It's part of the experience of meditation. All of it, right? It's all what's happening, right? There are not, now can you recognize that there is nothing separate from what's happening? There's nothing separate from what's happening that what's happening is happening to. Look. Can you see? And if you look at what's happening right now for you, we call that your experience. If you look at what's happening, right, is there a separate part of that the rest of it's happening to? No. Can you see? Yeah. It's not there. The evidence, that's one of the things that I often say is the evidence is 100% on the side of the truth. 100% on the side of the truth. And that's why you have to keep generating the illusion, because it's not actually there. There's no way out. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's no way out. What are you going to do? Get outside of what's happening? How are you going to do it? How are you going to get... See, that's the thing. That's the illusion. You think you did do that, didn't you? Yeah. We all think that...
Not if you're just seeing it as the truth. It's not doing something. You're just seeing an illusion for what it is, and if it goes away...
Yeah, but
that's what's happening.
Yeah, but you just proved my point. You just generated the illusion. Not if you're just seeing it, right? So is the you that's seeing it different from it? So there ain't no you just seeing it. All there is what's happening. This is why they say in the Buddhist teachings, the teachings of no self, a lot of people have a problem with that. You know what I mean? No self. What do you mean no self? If there's no self, how do I deal with that? Because I'm here trying to become enlightened, and you're telling me there is no me here trying to become enlightened, no self? Oh, that's too much in conflict with what I consider to be true. I have to find something I can work with here. Well, but the truth is not a flexible situation. The truth is the truth, and it continues to be the truth no matter what you think. It continues to be the truth no matter how much your conditioning has you live in a dream. That's why they call it a dream. No matter how much your conditioning has you live in a dream in which you're separate from reality. See, so if you look in the mirror, right? If you look in the mirror, I saw this somewhere recently, in a book that I was reading. If you look in the mirror, when you look in the mirror, your brain automatically separates you from everything else in the mirror, doesn't it? Yeah, automatically. You look in there, there's me, and there's the background, and there's a light, and then, like that, right? But that's generating an illusion. If you look in the mirror the same way as I just suggested to you, that you notice what's happening is not dualistic. If you look in the mirror that way, look in the mirror, try it. Look in the mirror and see if you can see the reality of what's there, not what the brain is doing. The brain is separating you from the environment, right? But look in the mirror and see if you can see the truth. The truth is what you're seeing there is all you. What you're seeing there is all you. There is nothing separate. There is nothing apart from what you're seeing. I mean, what you're seeing, the evidence that you see there is no different from what I mean when I say, look at what's happening. The evidence of what you see there, right, in the mirror, right? There is no separation between you and what else is in the mirror, is there? I mean, I'm talking about reality here. There is no separation between you and what else there is in the mirror. There isn't. You can look and see it. You are there, you can point to you in the mirror, and then you can point to what you think is not you, but there's no separation between them. They're all part of the same thing. Right? That's the truth. That's the reality that we live. Now you could argue and say, well, so what? So what? Because that's not how I experience my life. I experience my life as being separate. Right? So what good is it to know that that's not true? Because in the world I live, and everybody else that's in the world that I'm living in considers there to be separation, right? So that's not helping me to function. Well, it is helping you to function, because the fact of the matter is, even though you can experience the truth given your conditioning, right? What you're experiencing is your conditioning. That's what your brain has been conditioned to, your eyes to see, your thoughts to tell you, and so forth and so forth. But you can know it, you can know that it's true, and you can have glimpses of it, and if you practice meditation consistently, you can have more opening, more of an opening about it, where you could actually be in the dualistic world knowing it's not dualistic. You could be in the dualistic world knowing it's not dualistic. You could be in the dualistic world knowing that the only reason that things occur for you the way they do, and the only reason suffering occurs the way it does, is because you're involved in the dream, you're involved in the illusion in which there's separation, but it's not actually the case. So, the truth is the truth. The truth remains the truth. That's one of the reasons that it's called the truth. It doesn't change. The truth remains true all the time. It doesn't change. And so by being able to begin to recognize the truth, first conceptually, and then you can actually recognize the truth, right, through the process of meditation, in which you're letting go of the processing of things. See, when you're meditating, you're letting go of the processing of things. That's the thinking. You're letting go of the processing of things, and you're allowing your attention to move to where there is no processing of things, just awareness. And it's when you're in that state of awareness that non-duality is obvious. That's where you can see that there is no separation between anything. And then, of course, when you get back in thinking, the thoughts generate separation. My thoughts, not your thoughts, right? That's separate, generates separation. Yeah. The truth doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to. You see, because it's not part of the thought process. If it's going to be part of the thought process, then we have to make it make sense. So the question is, what's beyond thought? The question is, what's beyond the language, right? What's happening here before it gets processed, right? Is there duality before the thinking process? Is your identity in existence the way you believe in it before the thought process? You know, that's one of the reasons that I say, you know, if you wanna experience the truth of yourself, pay attention to when there is no thinking. That's when the truth is there. When you think, the thinking automatically takes the wholeness and puts it into categories and pieces and separates everything. Yeah, well, this is not about not thinking. This is not about escaping from the dualistic world. It's just about realizing that it is the dualistic world. It's not about escaping from your personality either. That's why when somebody mentioned about David Radin, he's always laughing, he's always happy, right? Yeah. It's not because he's different. It's not because he's being different. It's not because he's being enlightened and playing the role of an enlightened person. No. He realizes that that's bullshit. You know, it's not about being different. It's about just letting things be as they are, knowing that there's no effect to it. It's about letting things be the way things are, knowing that it's not going to hurt you. It can't hurt you. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to die. It's all a dream. It's all made up. It's all a thought process. It's all a thought process. Without the thought process, all there would be is what there actually is, which is happening right now. That's all there is, isn't it? Without thinking about it, all there would be is what's happening right now, moment to moment. That's the only thing you would have to deal with. It's like the old Alan Watts story. You know, the woman is washing dishes, and you know, she's been married for a while now, so the honeymoon's over and life goes on, you know, and it's daily stuff that you have to do. So she's washing dishes, she's standing in front of the sink, and as she stands there, she starts thinking, oh man, all the dishes I've ever washed in my life, wow. There'd be piles of dishes here if they were all here right now. And all the dishes that I'm ever going to wash in the future, there'd be piles of dishes here if they were all here right now. Man, what a drag, you know. All those dishes here, all those dishes there, right? But she has to think in order to produce that illusion, in order to produce a condition in which things look dreary, right? In order to produce a condition in which the dish she's washing right now is a drag, right? Is a bummer, right? Why? Because she's relating it to what doesn't exist, right? But if she starts to realize, her enlightenment would be, oh, wait a minute. The only real dish is the one I have in my hand. The only dish I ever have to wash is one dish. That's what enlightenment means. Enlightenment means to start to pay attention to what's real, happening now all the time, instead of taking it and processing it into time, in which what happened before and which will happen in the future makes what's happening now a whole different story. But if you take that out of it, right, and you start to deal with what's happening now, knowing that what's happening now is reality, that's all there ever is what's happening now. And what's happening now is non-dualistic in reality, because what's happening now includes everything you think is separate. But it's just thinking. Thinking is happening now, along with everything else that's happening now. But there's nothing outside of that happening, right? So this process of meditation and this process of developing understandings about the truth is not meant to offer you, and this is an important thing to understand, it's not meant to offer you like a place you can get to. You know what I mean? It's not meant to offer, like people think about heaven, a place you can get to, right? It's not meant to be that. That's not what it is. It doesn't mean that, oh, now that I understand the teachings, I'm going to practice hard. I'm going to do whatever I have to do in order to get out of this and get to that place. Get out of this and be enlightened. If I'm enlightened, then I won't be experiencing what a drag it is to be me anymore, right? If I'm enlightened, I won't be experiencing what a drag it is to be anymore, right? Well, good luck with that, right? Because that will never happen. It's guaranteed that that will never happen. So one of the things that a lot of the contemporary teachers, and many of the old teachers too, especially in Zen, keep trying to get across to the students is don't try and change. Don't keep seeking something. You know, don't keep acting as if it's somewhere else and not here. You know, you fall into that because the personality is a time-based operation. So no matter what you give it, it will put it in time and say, oh, I'm not enlightened now, but I could be enlightened. Someday I'll be enlightened. And so what I have to do now is find out why I'm not enlightened now. If I can figure out why I'm not enlightened now, maybe I'll become enlightened. If I meditate more, maybe I'll become enlightened. If I stop being a jerk as much, maybe I'll become enlightened. If I find a good guru that's really got the enlightenment, and maybe by touching them, or if I'm around them, it'll transmit to me, energetically it'll transmit to me. Isn't it true that a lot of people do that? You know, a lot of people do that. And unfortunately, a lot of quote unquote gurus continue to perpetuate that idea. You know, that I'm special, I have it, and because I'm special and I have it, I'm above it all. That's why I'm always smiling. You know, that's why I seem so calm all the time. That's why I wear sheets. You know, that's why I keep flowers around. But you know, that myth has to get killed. You know, the idea that any other human being is different than you is a myth. It's not true. It can't be true. They're not different than you. And that's one of the reasons why, if you see somebody who is really awake, somebody who really knows what time it is, right? They're laughing a lot and they're enjoying themselves, but what they're laughing at is themselves. Most of the time, they're laughing at their own personality, how ridiculous their own personality is. And they're not trying to change that. They don't have to change that, because once it's clear to you that that's not what you are, you don't have to do anything about it. Now it becomes the movie you're watching. Now it becomes a good show. Because it's not who you are, right? The drama's over. You know, death isn't real. The drama's over. You're not the body. So you know, now you can, even if you just get all that conceptually, right? And you have faith in that being true, and even if there's once in a while you get a brief glimpse of it, and when you get a glimpse of it, it's without question. You know what I mean? When you get a glimpse of it, it's absolutely clearly true. And then, of course, you go back into the ordinary way of being, you know, and the thoughts come back in and everything, right? And unless you really understand how that works, it's very easy to go back in and start believing the thoughts again and say, oh, I had it, but I lost it. I had an awakening, but it didn't last, you know, so now my life is about getting it back. Well, you see, that's not going to work, you know. You're just going to have to keep recycling the same useless thought processes, thinking that it's going to go somewhere. It's never going to go anywhere. It's never going to go. You can't get to somewhere you never left. How are you going to do it? How do you get to somewhere you never left? How do you get to somewhere you can't leave? It's impossible to leave. How? And yet, if you pay attention, your mind will keep trying to get you involved in this process that's going to take time. Going to get you involved in this process that involves that you're going to be, someday you're going to have this possibility. Someday you're going to have this possibility. And the only way you're ever going to have that possibility is to get over the idea that someday you're going to have it. That's the only way you're ever going to have the possibility.